Hello, welcome to my director's commentary of Once Upon a Time in Cabramatta, Scene 2. Today I will be discussing the filmic techniques used within this scene and how they help to make a viewer respond to this documentary. Here we see some constructed footage. This is setting the scene and showing us the streets of Cabramatta. The overlay of archival footage shows us the suburb's past, prior to the Vietnamese influx. We now see the Vietnamese community. We see archival footage overlaying the constructed footage once again, showing another chapter of the streets of Cabramatta. The narration is non-diegetic. The statistics and quotes are helping to further set the scene for the viewer. The techniques used so far are allowing the viewer to understand that the Vietnamese people are entering Australia and a large amount are settling in Cabramatta. Archival footage is being shown here. The stating of an increase in crime from Helen Sham Ho, a Liberal candidate, helps to show that the Vietnamese were causing trouble. The expert opinion from Professor Jakubowicz describes that Cabramatta's immigration was destined to fail due to the poor infrastructure set up by the government. He believes that the problem was not the fault of the Vietnamese, but the fault of the government. Non-diegetic sound is heard here from TV reports, and once again we see archival footage overlaying parts of the town, showing more history. The narration is helping to once again paint the picture of what is going on. The progression of these overlays, as seen on screen here, are helping to show the changes that Cabramatta has undertaken in the past few years. It is also showing what the streets have seen. The initial overlay of white people at the beach is a stark contrast to the crime that is being shown here, and the crime that has started since the influx of Vietnamese people. This positions viewers to feel that the Vietnamese are bad for the Australian public. Here we can see another archival footage. There is news reports and more sounds of news reports, along with images of Vietnamese gangs. This image here shows that the 5T were a popular gang. The black bars placed across the gang members portray them as soulless and without an identity. This positions the viewer to look at them with disgust. This interview from Joe Lee gives us anecdotal first-hand knowledge of the Vietnamese gangs. He explains to us what they stood for and what their name means. Here we see the past of his Vietnamese family. We see that they are happy. Here he explains that once his brother joined gangs, the Lee family was torn apart. This positions the viewer to begin to feel sympathetic for the Lee family. Here is some constructed footage of a gang home. This shows what the gangs had to live with and makes the viewer feel sympathetic for those involved. This story of a gun here that Joe Lee is talking about shows that there was danger all around the streets of Cabramatta, whether you were expecting it or not, and even for those who were very innocent, like him as a 6-year-old boy. This interview with Joe Lee positions the viewer to feel sympathetic for those Vietnamese people who weren't directly involved in the gangs. This is due to all being affected. Even when Joe was 6 years old, he was brought into the gangs due to his brother. His mother would take him to see his brother's house, and this caused him to see the true effects of gangs. The narrator here is drawing upon the fear that most lived on in the presence of the gangs in Cabramatta. Thank you for listening and hope you enjoyed.